and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed my Peppa Pig read aloud. Now we're going to spend some time working on the alphabet. I know that lots of you guys already know the alphabet and you are alphabet rock stars, but it's always good to review. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about the letter name, the letter sounds, and words that begin with the letter. Our first letter is A. We know that A has a short sound of A and a long sound of A. We know that apple begins with the short A sound, the A sound. Can you think of another word that begins with long or short A? So A or A? Maybe somebody in our class. This is the letter B. We know that B makes the B sound, and B, it has a belly. Sometimes lowercase b can be tricky. We know that the word balloon begins with the B sound. Can you think of another word that begins with the B sound? This is the letter C. We know that C makes the K sound, but sometimes C will make that tricky S sound. We call the K sound a hard C and the S sound a soft C. We know that cat begins with the K sound. Can you think of another word that begins with the K sound? This is the letter D. D makes the D sound. We know that lowercase d, it has a diaper, a stinky diaper. Sometimes we get lowercase d and lowercase b confused. We always want to watch for what direction our circle goes. We know that dog begins with the D sound. Can you think of another word that begins with the D sound? This is the letter E. E makes the short E sound and the long E sound. We know that egg begins with the short E sound, the E sound. Can you think of a word that begins with the short sound E or the long sound E? This is the letter F. We know that F makes the F sound. We know that fan begins with the F sound. Can you think of a word that begins with the F sound? This is the letter G. G makes the G sound. It comes all the way from the back of our throat, the G, G, G sound. We know that gate begins with the G sound. Can you think of another word that begins with the G sound? This is the letter H. H makes the H sound. When you say H, you should be able to feel air on your hand. We know that hat is a word that begins with the H sound. Can you think of another word that begins with the H sound? This is the letter I. We know that I has a short sound of I and a long sound of I. Can you think of a word that begins with short I or long I? We know that igloo begins with short I. This is the letter J. J makes the J sound. We know that Jax starts with J. Can you think of a word that begins with the J sound? This is the letter K. K makes the K sound just like the letter C. Can you think of a word that begins with the K sound? This is the letter L. L makes the L sound, like lamp. Can you think of a word that begins with the L sound? This is the letter M. M says mmm. Do you remember our Me Mouse song? We loved singing that. We know that monkey begins with just like Me Mouse. Can you think of a word other than Me Mouse that begins with the sound? This is the letter N. N makes the sound. You're going to put that tongue up on the roof of your mouth. Like nuts. Can you think of a word that begins with the sound? This is the letter O. O says ah for the short sound and O for the long sound. I see an octopus here. That starts with the short ah sound. Can you think of a word that begins with short ah or long o sounds? This is the letter P. P makes the p sound, like paint. Can you think of a word that begins with the p sound? Think back to the last video you might have watched. This is the letter Q. Q makes the qu sound, like queen. Now, lowercase q and lowercase p look really similar, so you have to make sure you're watching for which way the circle goes. Q's go this way, but a P goes that way. Can you think of another word that begins with the qu sound? This is the letter R. R makes the sound. We know that raccoon begins with the sound. Can you think of any other words that begin with that sound? This is the letter S. S makes the sound. We know that sun begins with the sound. Can you think of any other words that begin with the sound? This is the letter T. We know that T makes the t sound, like table. Can you think of a word that begins with the t sound? This is the letter U. We know that U makes the short sound and the long sound U. We know umbrella begins with that short sound, the Can you think of a word that begins with or U? This is the letter V. We know that V makes that V sound, like vest. Can you think of another word that begins with the V sound? This is the letter W. W makes the W sound, like web. Can you think of another word that makes the W sound? This is the letter X, and it makes the X sound, like X-ray. Can you think of another word that has the X sound just somewhere in it, maybe at the end? This is the letter Y. We know that Y makes the Y sound, like yo-yo. Can you think of another word that begins with the Y sound? And our last letter, this is the letter Z. Z makes the Z sound, like zipper. Can you think of any other words that begin with the Z sound? Good job, kindergarten. You reviewed your whole alphabet. You worked on letter names, you worked on letter sounds, and you worked on beginning sounds. Kiss your brain. You guys did a great job. Goodbye. See you later.